Hey everyone, welcome to another video. So this video is just going to be a general chat just about some things that have been on my mind. Lee, problem being, very kindly made me this very good thumbnail, and yeah, it's going to be sort of just give a general idea of the topic that's going to be about, just some of the things I've heard people say that have really rubbed me the wrong way. And just a quick disclaimer, however, I haven't actually seen the new Superman movie by James Gunn. Haven't seen it yet, haven't been to the cinema, but I have seen some non-spoilerific reviews on YouTube with some people that had some annoying things to say. Now, I'm not going to name those people just because, I can't be asked for drama. But as you can see, the general topic is about like this whole narrative of the beta male and like all the about men who shouldn't cry and all that kind of stuff. But I'm also going to make this a general chat as well. I haven't scripted this video, so I'm just basically going to be winging quite a lot of it. But we'll see where it goes. So obviously, I'll start off with the general topic, which inspired me to make this, and it's just something that I'm getting really sick of hearing, especially from people who, claim themselves to be geeks and nerds. It's just this whole kind of thing of, beta males and soy boys and cucks or whatever they call them. I'm not too in on these terms, but just a bit of a history. Yes, I do, personally describe myself as being against all this quote. I mean, everyone calls it woke, but it's really just the sort of extreme far left kind of ideological takeover of everything that's supposed to be fun and entertaining. I'm extremely against it, even if they do claim to be representing well, we know they're not representing me because I'm the wrong skin color and I'm the wrong gender, and I have the wrong beliefs, so they're certainly not representing me. But just to kind of lay all my cards out on the table right now, just to give you guys like a rough idea of my political opinions, is I'm a bit of a, I like England. I've always liked English culture. I was raised by my grandparents a lot, so I was into the older stuff like the Carry On films and Norman Wisdom, and just all things like that, which I'm very grateful for. I mean, Only Fools and Horses is my favorite sitcom of all time, and I suppose I'll be turning 26 in a few days, and I suppose a lot of people would say that for someone so young, it's quite surprising. But actually, I think there are a lot in my generation who love the classics, who like the older stuff, because I think it resonates more on a cultural level than the things that you get today. So, I'm very much against this whole kind of like remolding everything and reshaping everything into something unrecognizable, which is what the far political left seem to be content on doing. I am a big fan of, like very hyper masculine kind of, I suppose, action heroes. Like I love the 80s flicks, Predator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, just really great stuff. I'm actually watching the Rocky films at the moment. So although I myself am, quite, some would call a beta male, I'm not going to disagree with you there. In terms of my progression with status, I'm still a big kid. I still, I've got my toys. I have a bit of a somewhat flabby body. I am trying to fix this. I am going to the gym, but not enough. I mean, the heat today, guys, has just been insane. Like I don't even want to go outside, let alone go to the gym, because the heat has just been indescribable. I'm sure everyone's probably in the same boat at the moment, but yeah, I'm trying to better myself. I haven't had much luck with women. I had one crush, and Devious dinosaurs and demons. Oh gosh, yeah. The heat's just insane. Like I had to make a quick trip. Had to make a quick trip to the shop, and it's literally just right across. So we live next to a bridge, and it's just across at the bridge. And just walking there yesterday just absolutely destroyed me. I needed a shower as soon as I got back. That this, you know, this kind of heat just really doesn't do it for me. I've got friends that absolutely love it. I cannot understand you personally. I think I love it when it's comfortable. Like in spring, you get those warm, sunny days, but it's not humid, so you can go outside. It's Matthew Pounder. Thanks for being here. Great to see you in the chat. Um, so yeah, as I said, I consider myself a bit of a beta male, I suppose, by that standard. But it's very interesting, isn't it? It's like these sort of the geek culture. I always thought geeks were beta males. Quite honestly, I thought that's what it was for. I thought it was a place where we could enjoy the things we enjoy, and not be judged by the alphas and by those of the world. But it just seems like the more this anti-woke movement has grown, the more that that they seem hell-bent on just insulting anyone that shows that doesn't fit the sort of strong criteria, if that makes sense. So the topic is a particular YouTuber kind of made a joke about men crying when reviewing Superman, and the thumbnail is actually of a comic book screen grab of Superman crying. So Superman, I mean, pretty much a human god. Well, no, he's not human, he's an alien, but pretty much a god. Even he has his weak points. And watching Rocky 3 last night, and just seeing him break down, it was just I won't spoil the film, but really, really sad moment. It's just I'm getting sick of it. I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure many of you will probably know who I'm talking about. Just this really aggressive kind of like, I suppose, counterculture to the culture that we're living in at the moment, which I'm not a big fan of personally. Like I have made this clear, I'm not a fan of. I'm just going to call it wokeness, even though that is quite a lazy way to describe it. But yeah, divas, dinosaurs, and demons. Yeah, alphas are often just fake. They hide behind big words, but it's just getting deeply frustrating because I understand where they're coming from. I do understand where they're coming from, and what Hollywood are doing. They're trying to emasculate men as possible. Like, look, as I said, Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator. I mean, you can't get more masculine than that, and I love it. I love it for its over the top ridiculousnit. I think, but I mean, at the same time, obviously these are characters that you wouldn't be able to have in most situations in life, because it would just be an absolute shit show, just them shooting up the place. But yeah, it's just this constant, really aggressive, like, oh, you soy cuck, or you bloody beta, you whinging, crying loser, go get a job, go outside, be a proper man. It's like, oh, you waste of space. And these people, that they ironically sound like the very people who picked on me at high school. They sound more like the bullies, but they've got all these toys and action figures in the background. Well, it's like, so are you really a manly man's man? It's like, there's a lot of toys in the background. Speaking of toys, I'm currently surrounded by the things. I've been doing a lot of moving around in the office. I've got 2 big displays. My room, I'm actually running out of space in my room. It's yeah, the elites always love to split us up and attack on masculinity. Yeah. Oh, it's just ridiculous. I mean, you The thing is, right, is that there's nothing wrong with either. I think you can have, more masculine. I think it would be quite stupid to get rid of masculinity. I mean, you need it, it's like leadership, strength, resilience. It's like everything that you can aspire to be, but that doesn't mean that you can't be, emotional and sensitive as well. I don't think you have to like throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I think when I listen to these so-called anti-woke YouTubers, they just sound like a bunch of high school, uh, God, what's the word? Chads, just like, oh, just laughing at people, and just because they show even an ounce of femininity. I mean, as I said, I don't particularly like what Hollywood is doing. It feels very forced. It doesn't feel natural. But guys, I just worry that if we're not careful and we end up going too far in the other direction, it's just going to be very. It's going to be the world's going to be not a nice place to live, to be honest. Yeah, yeah, it is tribalism. It's like there's us and there's them, and that's to be honest, in terms of the culture war, I am getting a bit sick of this very kind of backwards and forwards, right fighting the left. I mean, I'm somewhere in the middle, and honestly, I think somewhere in the middle is the best place to be with most situations. You know, not all situations, obviously, but I think in terms of my political opinions, the obviously I strongly disagree with a lot of the wokeness, but at the same time, I have opinions that would make conservatives want to burn me at the stake. So it's like it's always just being somewhere in the middle. But I just miss the days when entertainment was entertainment, and I think what's happened is I think a certain group of people have become so used to just slagging everything off because don't get me wrong, it has been absolutely atrocious that I think they've just started to become very mean people in general. And I'm sure if they were listening to this, they'd probably just say, "Oh, did we hurt your feelings?" It's just like, well, I thought you guys were supposed to be geeks. I mean, I don't really class myself as a geek, but I suppose I'm quite into the things I'm into. It's all a part of ADHD. I become like hyper obsessed with things. So things like, sci-fi, like Predator, Alien, and I suppose Doctor Who, it's that they're all things that I became very obsessed with because I was an only child, and I lived in quite a small village. So these things were a great means of escapism, and I love them to this day, really. And obviously now that they've been ideologically captured, you've now got this sort of pushback which has been going on for quite some years now, and I've been for it. I really have. I'm like, but in recent years it really has just started to sound like, you know what they're just like, oh, they just say all these horrible things, and and oftentimes categories that I tend to fit in, like a perfect example is, this was quite some years ago now, but a particular YouTuber who I do like. I do think he's very funny, but sometimes I do think they cross the line a bit. Is he did say something like, "Oh, I think he was criticizing the film The Predator, which is absolutely awful. It's one of those films where I thought it was so bad we could laugh at it, but no, it's just plain bad. And the worst bit is you don't actually remember how bad it is until you're actually watching it." Um, and the predator wants to capture this autistic kid because he believes it's the next step in human evolution. And it's like that's not really the representation I'm looking for. It's just playing fucking stupid. It's not smart. It's not, and if that is the case, well, we're probably doomed as a species. And I will say that as an autistic person, But the comment that this YouTuber made is he basically said to the director, "Looks like you might have some autism yourself." And that really did hit me. That kind of was like sticking a knife in, because I'm autistic, and I think that's very rude. I think that's very like, so you're basically saying that what if I wrote a story or I wrote a film, it would be rubbish. You know, it would be like this. Like, how dare you? I've got lots of ideas, and I just think, you know what I mean. It just becomes this very all in one bubble kind of thing. And you know, they've said many things over the course of the years that have just really irked me. I know my friend Lee doesn't like a lot of the anti-gay stuff that they say, and I'm sure that, you know, it's meant to be a joke. You know, it's not meant to be taken overly seriously. But the trouble is when you keep saying it and saying it and saying it, you know, you start to realize that maybe this is just you. You know, I mean, you can put as much context to it as you want, but like I say, it's just when you keep saying these horrible things over and over again, yeah, it's not fun. So to be honest, I think geek culture needs to die. It's good, a place to talk to other people, but I feel it was used to demonize us. Then it became fetishized. Yes. The trouble is geek culture did have a sort of toxic hierarchy as well. You know, it did have a sort of like, there were these select few that said, oh, if you didn't have the opinion, then, you know, you'd be criticized to hell. Like, you know, it's, if you liked a particular film, it's like, I really like Spider-Man 3. A lot of people don't, and I do get it. But it's like, you know, it's always it always tends to happen with like anything that you do. And the trouble is, I also feel like it's become far too mainstream. Like, I feel like as geek culture has become more mainstream, it's, you know, you've had a lot of, I'm not being sexist, but you've had a lot of women come in, and the whole dynamic of it has sort of changed. And I've noticed this as well with a lot of collectibles. Whereas back in the day, you used to get really high quality action figure toys because it was very boy centric. You know, now you're getting these cheap Funko Pops and plushies, and, you know, the more kind of things that girls would be into. That's just something I've picked up on. You know, you see this a lot. I mean, they still do those action figures, but they're on a very expensive collector's market that is very aimed at a very specific demographic. And I know, because these are the things that I tend to I tend to collect myself. Um, I agree with him and you by making anti-gay jokes end up driving young into the arms of these nutcases. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like, you know, you can't stop bullying by becoming a bully yourself. But I fully understand, you know, that there's that a lot of people are getting sick of this over representation, and it's not doing us any good. You know, it's not doing us any good, because it's just making people not like us more. And when I say us, I mean, like, you know, I suppose, well, what even is a normal person? See, this is another thing. I hate it when people say, oh, you know, be normal. It's like, well, what even is that? You know, just ridiculous. But, you know, it's like when you start just trying to shove it in people's faces, a lot of people just want to get home from work and just escape, you know. And just like, when you keep making everything overly political on the left, and you keep on shoving all this in people's faces, this unfortunately is the kind of reaction you're going to get. You know, people are just going to start getting very annoyed, very angry, and just start saying really nasty things. And unfortunately, I think that's where we're at now. As I said, I do actually like these YouTubers. I do like their content when they talk sensibly. But when they start going on these silly things like, you know, men crying, and, oh, these gay lords, and these, you know, other words that they would use, it's just like, I just wish you guys would realize that actually the vast majority of the people who are being so-called represented in these horrendous ways, you know, these very stereotypical, over-the-top, politicized ways, don't actually agree with this. In fact, that they just want to get on with their lives just like everybody else. And, you know, I think it starts getting into the point where you start tarnishing people with the same brush, and that's always a problem. So yeah, you know, just like men cry, well, like Superman's cried, you know, Rocky's cried, and I think it does take a lot of strength to cry, because, you know, I've been dealing with a lot of personal family issues at the moment. I've lost family members, And I've had my cries, but in recent months, I've really been struggling. Like I can't seem to, I feel more numb now than I have than I do actual proper upset, and it's really difficult. But the most shocking thing I had to deal with was there was someone who I was trying very hard to keep sort of happy. I won't give too much context to what happened, but I was trying to be happy and do my job. But I at sort of the peak of what was going on with my mom, narrowly surviving cancer, it was I was a bit upset, and this person basically said, "Can you stop being so down because you're affecting the rest of us?" And I'm just like, wow, when the worst part was is I had supported this person when she was down. I'd been there for her, and it was just like, well, definitely not a double standard there. So yeah, I don't know. I'm finding people to be very just nasty and mean spirited at the moment. Yeah, it just and the worst thing was I explained everything. Like I wasn't keeping it a secret, and I just thought, how unaware can you possibly be? But I just feel like a lot of these people, these anti-wokers, seem to be very the same, very sociopathic. I don't know if it's just me. I don't, it's probably like ones with the loudest voice kind of thing, but I don't know. That's just how I see it anyway. Like I'm saying, I'm not saying all of them are bad. I do quite enjoy some of their content, but I just feel like this has been going on for so long that it's getting into the realm now where they're not even trying to to remember that that the people who are being misrepresented are not actually annoying or horrible themselves. Matthew Pounder, thanks. No, it's it's better. My mom is sounding a lot better actually. I'm very happy because I was convinced at one point that she wasn't going to recover because the tumor was very big, and I was worried that there had been some brain damage. But the brain has a magical way of fixing itself, and neurons can actually start moving again once certain parts grow back. So on the phone, she sounded just like she used to. Texting is a bit difficult, like she can't quite press the keys because her hands are shaking a lot. But um, it was just so great to speak to her on the phone. Sadly, my gran isn't. She's on the way out. Dementia has kicked in, and she's not able to feed herself now. She's not eating, so we have to look into other things. It really has been a very shit 3 years. I'm not going to lie. I mean, we just got through COVID and all that stuff. Oh God, I've said that on stream now, so my whole channel's going down. But we just get through that, and then all of a sudden, it's just I lose both my granddads, and then it's just everything just seems to be on this downward slope, and I think it's times like this where we really just need escapism. We need good characters, we need masculine characters, we need feminine characters, we need good characters and good stories. And sadly, Hollywood just seems intent with just constantly hitting us over the head with all this crap. It's becoming very difficult to find genuine escapism. I mean, for me, it's about going back and watching the stuff I haven't seen yet. That's really all I can do. Thankfully, there's a lot of it. Oh, I got some Pepsi Max with me. In this heat, I need something. Yeah, it's just a shit situation, and it's like I've been talking about with Doctor Who. Obviously, I lived and breathed for that show for so long, even though New Who's been going down, in my opinion, since Moffat took over. It was like this gradual decline, and then when Moffat left, I was overjoyed, and then Chibnall happened. Chibnall left, I was overjoyed. Russell's coming back, I was overjoyed. He told me to F off. I was like, oh, okay. And then I still gave him a chance, and then with what he did, I was just like, no. And do you know what? It's made me reevaluate his original era. So that's my childhood ruined. That is my childhood ruined. So it really like the past 5 years just seem to be this constant barrage of just having things taken away, and I really do think that these people are just something else. So I do understand why the anti-wokers come in and there's this big pushback, but sometimes I just think their attitude and the way they sort of portray themselves, it just comes across as just very mean spirited, and I don't think it has to be that way. I think you can disagree with what's being doing without acting like you're this alpha chud, tosser, like the people I had to deal with at school. I mean, as I said, I'm a beta male, not been had that much luck with women, uh, but then with modern women, it's not an easy thing. And yeah, it's just this constant constant struggle. But at the same time, I do love very masculine characters. I love superheroes. I love all the big 80s action heroes. And I do prefer the classic Who iteration of the Doctor because he's not constantly being shat on and morally lectured by 19-year-old women. He's a man who can stand on his own 2 feet. And I think, just because you're a more sensitive person doesn't mean you can't aspire to be more like them. And I like to think that as I've grown, I have taken a lot of inspiration from the Doctor as a character. I think I have, in all honesty. But the truth is, the new Who Doctor, he was always this. When he was a man, he was this PTSD suffering, god complex, sociopathic. Always questioning whether or not he was a good or bad person, and it always took a bloody, you know 21st century woman to kind of steer him on the right path. And it's like, and then you look at the classic Who Doctor, and full of confidence, full of wisdom, definitely masculine traits in there, but not a chud, not big muscles. I mean, Pertwee was a bit of a he was an action hero. He was very cool, but just this very fun, um very very heartwarming figure. And I think he was the perfect role model for boys, quite honestly. The classic Who Doctor. I mean, David Tennant was my Doctor, but it's only as I've gotten older I've kind of analysed his Doctor a bit more, and I've kind of gone, well, is this really a hero for kids? Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's like when he goes completely off the wagon and just becomes all evil, and it's just like, why? You know, it's just all this stuff. I mean, some people like the Time War story arc. I used to like it, but the payoff was so shit. I was like, well, what's the point of all that? Um, or Dr. Mew, I watched Superman. For me, it was no Christopher Reeve Superman. There were slight elements that were, yes, that's a bit like Superman, but for me, was neither bad nor good, just generic type. The trouble is I've heard it's very James Gunn, and I do like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies a little bit, but at the same time, I don't. I hate this, very over the top, full of gags. And the trouble is, I'm not a comic book person, so I was hoping for a Superman film. Now, I watched the Christopher Reeve Superman films recently, and I really liked them. I liked all of them, and I even liked the third one. I liked a lot of the ideas that were in there. But it was Superman as a character. You got to watch him grow. It was all about him. Now they've brought in all these side characters, apparently, from the comics, and I don't have a clue who they are. It's a comic book film made by a comic book geek for comic book geeks. And the trouble with that is you've now just excluded a very large proportion of the audience, the casual viewers who are going to go in there and just be like, well, what's all this? I don't understand what this is, and that's the problem I have. That's why I love the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy by Sam Raimi, because it tells you everything you need to know about the character, and you watch the character grow, and you get all the villains introduced, and you get their origins, and they're all connected to Peter Parker. They don't come from alternate dimensions and all these big over the top things. It's easy to follow, and it's a great story, and that's why I love the Batman trilogy, the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. Is why I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. It's why I love the Christopher Reeves Superman. I think they are really the best when it comes to hero and superhero um, films. I think when it started going all big and grand and all this big multiverse, it just became all very convoluted and just not that fun. And I knew that that James Gunn wasn't the right choice. I thought maybe he would surprise us, but no. When people started saying all the non-spoilerific reviews, I was like, no, I don't think this is going to be a film for me. Yeah, I love the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy. For me, it is yet to be beaten. I know Spider-Man 3 has issues. Obviously, that was studio interference, and they wanted to sell toys, basically, so they just shoehorned in the black suit. It was meant to be all about Sandman, which is, such a shame because I loved. He is one of my favorites, and I loved his portrayal. I thought the CGI was brilliant, and I just wanted so much more of him, and he was going to be the central focus. So that's such a shame that got changed. I almost wish they could, make they could bring Sam Raimi back, make Spider-Man 4, and maybe carry on Sandman into the story. Like No Way Home bollocks. I didn't like that they cured the villains. It's like some people did, I didn't. I just see that as they weren't the same, because if it's a multiverse, who's to say that they were the original Sam Raimi trilogy versions? Yeah, Matthew Pounder. Yeah, he was a beta male. He was a geek, and then all of a sudden he gets this superhuman powers. He gets superhuman strength, fast healing, and spider powers. And now he has all this power. It starts to go to his head, and you see that he starts getting aggressive, and he starts getting overconfident and cocky. And that's why his uncle's lesson, with great power comes great responsibility. He learns that, and he learns it in a way that I think, is a message that a lot of us that is very relatable. I thought it was real. There was so much thought put into there. The Andrew Garfield films, I was never a fan of them. They just felt very cheap, very rushed. I do like Andrew Garfield, but I wasn't a fan of those. And then the Tom Holland ones, it just felt like it was too reliant on the MCU. No Way Home was a bit of fun, but I'm not gonna lie. Every time I watch it, I enjoy it less and less. For me, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy, it's just, if you want live action Spider-Man, that's the way to go. I also thought that show, Spectacular Spider-Man, was a good animated show. That kind of came out roughly the same time as Spider-Man 3, although I didn't end up watching it till years later. But yeah, it's like, and then when he gets the black suit, it's all a metaphor for drugs and stuff, and you just see the dark side of his personality. And lots of people hate that. They're like, oh, but he becomes an emo. I'm like, he's a socially awkward, you know, high school graduate. Like, of course he's gonna, he's it's all part of the humor. Sam Raimi has a very specific style of humor. All you have to do is watch the Evil Dead films and you can see it. It's Sam Raimi's style, and a lot of us really like it. It's a lot of I think most people who hate Spider-Man 3 are those kind of gold age, silver age comic book nerds who are like, you guys have got this completely wrong. And like I say, that sort of upper elitist kind of nerd that's like, if you don't have this opinion, you're an idiot. It's like, where actually I think a lot of people in my generation, we related very much to the Spider-Man trilogy and the messages. See, the good thing about the messages in Sam Raimi's films is they didn't feel on the nose, because the characters were written and developed so well. Whereas if this kind of thing was happening today, it would just be some social political message just right in your face. stuff character development and anything that makes them good. Okay, so Dinosaurs Demons. So I don't think that it was the studio's fault. I blame Sam Raimi. Sandman should not be there. Venom is a better character and is perfect for Raimi's style, but Raimi was a big baby, honestly. Well, yeah. Look, I'm not going to claim to know everything about it. I really like Sandman. I mean, I like the black suit as well. I thought it was really good, but I love the CGI. I love everything about the character. I think he's so sympathetic, so cool. Once again, another example actually. Like he's very masculine and he's very, but the truth is he's a big softy on the inside. And you just have to, he's got that wonderful look in his eyes as well, where you just see that, someone's in pain behind there. And you just feel so sorry for the guy because, it's just like so much was out of his control. And, doesn't life just get like that sometimes? And I just think it was a wonderful thing they did with his character. I just wish there was more. That's that's it. The original cartoons, yes, I've seen a few of them actually, and the animation's very impressive for the time. It's such a shame that now that Disney owns everything, it's so difficult to find a place where you can watch these things. I imagine that I suppose they'll be all on Disney Plus, but I hear the Spider-Man cartoon from the '90s was actually pretty good. It had a very weird theme tune, but it was pretty good. But for some reason, they said that they couldn't animate Sandman because it would be too complex. They did it in the '60s and the '70s no, the '60s and the '80s cartoon. So what are you talking about? And they also did Hydra Man. So what? So you can't animate sand, but you can animate water. It's like, okay. Yeah, that's a bit of a bummer that my favorite villain isn't in it, but there you go. Doc Ock, really like him as well. But yeah, honestly, I've struggled with comic books just because, as the anti-wokers would often laugh at my attention span with that. I was always a picture person. I'd look at books for the pictures, and sometimes, especially with the older comics, I find the art style a bit too simplified. But I appreciate it for what it is. I mean, when I did art BTEC, that we learned all about the different styles and things. I do have a respect for it, but there are certain styles that I love. There is one comic I adore actually, and it's the Alien comic that I've got by Dark Horse. It's got such a wonderful art style. It's just I can't find every piece of it. Yeah, yeah, Venom. Yeah, he was sympathetic. Yeah, it's because Sam Raimi didn't understand the character, and I think Sam Raimi was looking to do a sort of metaphor for the dark side of human nature, addiction. So I see the black suit in Spider-Man 3 as not meant to be Venom, the character that you know from the comics, but more of a sort of physical manifestation of the dark side within Peter himself and how his actions, have consequences for the people around him. I'd say if you look at it like that, I think that's what he was going for. Uh, James Cameron. Oh, okay. So James Cameron wanted Sandman and Electro for a film, so they were well. It's a shame that that never came to fruition. Okay, see, that's what I love it. All these things that I don't know about, and it's like, okay, so James Cameron doing a Spider-Man or a Marvel film. That's interesting. I mean, I don't know if it's me, but I do think a lot of the superhero films from the '90s and the 2000s get a lot of hate. I don't know what it is like. I quite like the original Hulk film from, was it 2001, 2002? I don't mind the Incredible Hulk. I know that was what kicked off the MCU with Iron Man, but I much prefer that one with the different actor, that was kind of a standalone. I really enjoy that film. I don't understand why it gets the hate it does. It's a good film. I just think when they tried to build this big universe, it just became far too convoluted and over the top. I want to see Spider-Man. Spider-Man's my favorite Marvel. Batman's my favorite DC. Although since watching the Christopher Reeves Superman trilogy, Superman is definitely up there now. I really didn't appreciate that character until I saw that trilogy. I have been told not to watch the fourth one or the fifth one, so I'm quite happy to stop at the third. Oh, I've got to keep taking a swig of Pepsi every now and then. But yeah, for those of you who've joined recently, the topic is just about some people. I haven't seen the Superman film, the recent one, so I don't know if he does cry. But obviously, there's Hollywood trying to emasculate men, and then there is real men who happen to cry. And I think the trouble is because people are getting so sick and tired of seeing these really effeminate men, overly effeminate men in like modern woke stuff, that I think a lot of people are taking real men's experiences and just sort of underplaying them. I mean, men have had to deal with this kind of thing for since forever. This whole kind of, you're not allowed to cry, you're not, and it's like, just to hell with that. And just hearing these anti-woke YouTubers talking this way, almost like high school bullies, I'm just sick of it, man. And, it'd be very interesting because I tell you, none of them will come and talk to me because the mask would slip. Not like they're aware of my existence anyway. Funnily enough, I suppose I will have to kind of reveal who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to name names. So the Friday Night Tights lot are also, not exempt from this. They do it as well, quite a lot, actually. I actually did some fan artwork for Nerdrotic back in 2021. Yeah, 21. God, was it that long ago? And his wife was really nice. She hit me up on Instagram, and or did I contact her? It was one of them. I showed the artwork, and she said, could I do it's like a Christmas card they wanted in the sort of rabbit style drawings that I do. And yeah, I did that, and she actually paid me. It was a nice commission, so that was really nice of her. It was featured. Some of my artwork was featured on their streams at one point. But this was a long time ago. Like they won't remember who I am. And then yeah, the Christmas card, it was on the Instagram very briefly, but I suppose I got a bit excited. I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to get to go on a video? It's like, no, of course not. But you know what? I'm fine with that because, like I say, we all went through that point where we were getting sick of the wokeness. I mean, we still are, but this just seems to be dragging out so much longer than it had any right to drag out. And I just think when people just use the same talking points, it just starts to get a bit boring. That's where I'm at. Like, I've stopped watching a lot of it because I'm just I know what to expect at this point. But I will say this, Gary's Doctor Who videos are fantastic. Like, in my opinion, his Doctor Who content is probably the closest you get to the real Gary for me. Like, he just seems to come across as more of a geek and less of a political commentator. Oh, so you had a run-in with the Friday Night Tights lot and they thought you were woke. Well, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, what is the definition? Because the goalpost gets moved from person to person, but Gina Carano follows you on Twitter. Oh, that's nice. I do like her. I really do. She just seems to have her head screwed on. She might like the spotlight a bit, I will say, but I mean, obviously in that industry, what do you expect? But she is beautiful. Like, and at the end of the day, guys, she could snap me in half like a twig. There's no, she could put me through a wall. There'd be an imprint of me in the wall. It's like, and that's the truth. But it's this is the thing. It's like we're all different at the end of the day, and I just think that for those who claim to be geeks, just coming out with all this like soy boys and things, it's like, well, what are you guys meant to be exactly? Because and having the nerve to keep ranting on about my generation all the time, when I'm sorry, are you seriously going to tell me that you guys have a job other than YouTube? Because I do. It's only part time, but I have a job. And I mean, with the amount of videos you upload, it's impossible that you have a job. There's no way. And it just, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I do see some hypocrisy in a lot of the things they say. And like I say, I've got gay friends, and they're not for the woke stuff. They're highly against it, but they're just getting so sick of the Friday Night Tight slot and all these people, because they're just constantly just you know tarnishing everyone with the same brush. I don't know if they intend to do it. They some might, some probably don't. It's just the kind of the sort of, I don't know, the pack. The word, the talk that goes on. So you've really had a good experience with her then. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's the trouble. It's I really do like being a part of this community, like Noel with the TARDIS zone, and just this sort of like small pocket of remaining Doctor Who fans or ex Doctor Who fans, that come together, because I just feel like it's such a nicer community to be a part of. I mean, I don't see. I don't think I've seen any person in this community speak like some of the people do over those bigger channels. I think everyone's really nice, everyone's really supporting, and the people who come from a whole array of different backgrounds. And I think that's what's really nice about this community. Yeah, absolutely, Dr. Mew. It's fleshing out characters, but it all kind of goes into that whole thing of men not being allowed to cry. It's like, well, women, do they have monopoly over the tears? And shit like that. It's all just, oh, it's just ridiculous. That's why I love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, because I see a lot of myself in him. And I think it's great. I don't think you're going to get heroes like that anymore. I really don't. I just think we've become, society's just devolved that much in such a short space of time. But I think the best we can hope for is maybe my generation and younger will kind of just get so sick of it. They'll rebel. A lot of people say this will happen, and they'll go back and they'll start enjoying the old stuff. Apparently, that's what's happening. Like, a lot of kids are preferring the older Tom and Jerry's, the older Scooby Doo's, and all this kind of stuff. To the shit that they're being served up today. And it's like, why wouldn't you? I was very lucky in many ways. John the White, yes, yeah. I was actually I was lucky enough to be on a stream with him, actually, and he was a lovely man. That's what I mean. I think this community really has just touched a lot of people in so many ways, and in many ways, because, like I said, this stuff has gone on for so long. I think a lot of people are getting fed up, and I think we might need to start just really have it talking about some positive things. Like, this channel isn't solely going to be Doctor Who. I mean, I've got some Doctor Who related videos coming up, some streams on the merchandise and stuff like that. But I do want to talk about other things. I do want to talk about other science fiction things. I want to talk about Alien Earth is coming soon, so I'm sure I'm going to give that a watch. Might see if we can get PD on, because he's a super Alien fan, and he's very fun to talk to when it comes to like all the props and the different things about the film. It's it's what I love about this community. It's like you just meet people who are on very similar things as you, and it's great. That's what being I won't even say being a geek or a nerd. That's just what being a fan of these things was like, you know. But now it's all just like it's all so colorful and oversaturated, and everything new that's coming out is 9 times out of 10 crap. So yeah, it's like you can only talk about the old things for so much, I find. Yeah, Tom and Jerry, God, I just the laughs I got out of that as a kid, you know, and Looney Tunes as well, the old ones, just really great, just classics, timeless. You know, you can still watch them today. I just worry that what they. I hope they never do this, but they make it so that you can't access the older media anymore. Yeah, because then it's just like, no, you have no choice but to consume our modern rubbish. So yeah, here you go. Oh gosh, yeah. Do you know, I actually keep forgetting that that's even happened. Um, so yeah, the reaction. So John's reaction to Billy's doctor. Oh god, I'm so out of it. I keep forgetting that that's even happened. To tell you the truth. So yeah, well, I suppose at least he's not around to see this absolute nonsense that it's devolved into. It's just gotten ridiculous. I think it's beyond saving at this point. Quite honestly, I really do, and it's such a shame. You have people who invested their whole lives in it, and it's like this is how it ends. It would have been lovely if the show could have been saved, and then John could have seen some great Doctor Who again. But no, no, these people just have to ruin everything that they touch. Fuck everybody else. As long as I get to push my message. Yeah, Doctor Mew. There is. It's like I'm discovering a lot of old films and things like that, and there is a lot of it, and there's a lot that I haven't seen. I think my big trouble is sometimes I'm always nervous to try new things. I think that's so it's like going back to the hyper obsession thing that I have. I'm always nervous to try new things. So if there's a sci-fi film that I haven't seen yet, I'm like, oh, will I like it? Won't I? And there's always that kind of thing where do I take a chance or don't I? Because there are some flops, there are some things that just aren't for me. But I think a lot of the times when I've tried something new, I've really enjoyed it. So yeah, I know somebody, dinosaurs mentioned Blake Seven. Yeah, it's. I'm sorry. I tried. I really tried. I liked Avon and Dana. I think season 3 was definitely my favorite because they got rid of Blake. It's like it should have been Avon 7. Quite honestly, Logan's Run the Time Machine. I did watch the Time Machine from the 60s. Loved it. Great film. I forgot what you call them, but those creatures they encounter in the far future, that they were frightening. I remember in primary school it was my headmistress's favorite film, and she was a big Doctor Who fan, and it was always so fun coming into school on Monday, and she'd be talking with us all. What did you think of the episode? And yeah, she used to talk about the time machine quite a lot. I think she actually had a little model, if it was a model or like a blueprint of it or something. But it was quite cool to look at. But no, I there are so many things that I've actually only recently sat down and watched, which is insane. You know, and some people say, "How? Oh, their problem being they're Morlocks. That's it." Yeah, that they really were visually just incredible. And what else did we watch? We watched Forbidden Planet and King Kong, and just all these things. Like you look at the visuals and you think for back then, it really does put into perspective how low budget Classic Who was. It's like I'm sorry, it did the best it could, but I mean, it's like gosh, just it shocks me just how how great some of the visuals are in these old films, like 2001: Space Odyssey. I mean, that's like a trip without needing drugs. You know, it's insane. And I love how much practicalness is in it. You know, it's nice to know that a lot of that stuff is actually there. It's not just CGI. Yeah, but I'm trying to think what else I watched only recently that made some people go, "Oh, you've only gotten round to seeing that recently." Because HMV, there's a local HMV. They do like these retro classics Blu-ray lines. I've been collecting a lot of those. There's a film called Crack in the Earth. That was really good. I was quite surprised by how good that was. I really want to see Journey to the Center of the Earth, the original one. Yeah, I want to see that. And like, I think in the 80s, actually, I used to believe that the 80s was like the peak. I don't know. I think a lot of stuff started falling off in the 80s. Actually, started getting a bit silly. Like aside from the big sci-fi things like Alien, Predator, and all that. And then in the 90s, I think everything just became a comedy. So I don't know. Horror was good though, but I'd say 70s was peak horror for me. So yeah, like I say, I did say this was just going to be like a general chat. I know I'm not sticking to the topic very much, but you know what, guys? As I said, I just think at the end of the day, you got to be you. I know me and Problem Being were having this conversation. See, the what I don't like about these anti-wokers is that they, you know, they all sound the same, they all play the same tune, but they don't put their own personality into it. And I just think you've got to be you at the end of the day. I mean, I may be a beta male. Some people have said I'm not because I stand up for my beliefs and all that. You know, it's like maybe I am, maybe I aren't. But at the end of the day, you just got to be you. You know, don't jump on the bandwagon. I don't like the wokeness that is going on in culture. I don't like a lot of things that are going on. But at the same time, you know, I think it's okay for men to cry. I think the best superheroes have an emotional side. You know, I think being both masculine and having some feminine in there is good. I think everything's balance. You know, this whole one-sided argument, it's just getting very frustrating now. Yeah, that's exactly it. But I don't think they are individuals. I think it's you're on our side or you're not. That's how it comes across to me. And like I say, I think Gary makes fantastic Doctor Who videos, and I feel like when he does that, that's him. You know, I mean, opinions is one thing, but it's just, you know, I can't help but take a little bit of offense when they take the piss out of autistic people. And it's just like, I'm sorry. Look, I haven't seen the Last of Us series, and I understand that, you know, it's not very good. It's got all that political bollocks in there, but I just don't know if it's okay to start laughing at how someone looks. Do you know what I mean? That's just like, you're not really criticizing the show there. Although you can't deny that, you know, lead actresses are in a lot of things are getting less and less attractive. I don't think anyone's going to deny that, and it's getting a bit frustrating. I couldn't believe that Sigourney Weaver was 30 in the first Alien. Like, Christ. Oh, man. So we got 10 people watching. That's really nice. Thanks you all for tuning in here. Just doing a sort of general chat. Yeah, I went to see Ready Player One at the cinema. I thought it was okay. I thought there was some good ideas in there. But it was just a bit of fun, I suppose. But, you know, you had all those different licenses, things from, you had the Iron Giant roaming around and a lot of other stuff. It was a bit of fun. Yeah, I didn't mind it at all. You know, I do have it somewhere on DVD or Blu-ray. That's what I mean. You like what you like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Unless you like the Russell T Davies era of Doctor Who. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's I can't even bring myself to talk about it anymore. I think I've said everything I need to say about it. If you guys haven't seen the stream I did with Problem Being, go check it out on the channel. It's just, yeah, it's a really, really great stream. Really happy with that. It's where I've said basically all I need to say. So I'm going to wrap up shortly, but yeah, I just wanted to know what you guys think. You know, it's should men be allowed to cry in action films? Are you a failure as a man if you show even the slightest bit of vulnerability, you know, and all this stuff? It's just, I think wokeness has caused this ultimately, because I think people are just getting so sick of it being like forced down their throats, when actually, you know, I mean, I'm trying to write my own story. I've got masculine characters, I've got feminine characters, and I just think, you know, balance is very healthy. And I don't think, you know, what I don't want to happen is I don't want the swing back to wokeness to be so severe that even the idea of someone feminine on screen, you know, is just going to be up for scrutiny. It's just ridiculous. I suppose I'm just tired of having all these expectations put on, and it just makes me want to retire from the internet completely at times. So I just wanted to know what you guys think. Yeah, the heat today has just been absolutely insane. You can tell this is the first time I've actually done this by myself. That's abundantly clear. I think actually I might see if I can maybe show off an action figure or two just before we go. I have seen Bullet Train, and I really like it. I can't understand why the film didn't do so well. I thought it was really fun. I haven't seen Beekeeper yet, but the way I look at it is, if you've seen one Jason Statham film, you've pretty much seen them all, because I swear he plays the exact same character in every film. You know, just a guy who's had something taken and is just looking for revenge. It's like, that's pretty much every film he does. Okay, sorry for my terrible hair, but got some Daleks here. This one is the Planet Dalek, just the standard grey one. Turn on the light a little bit. So yeah, got the standard grey sort of Planet Dalek. It is the sound effects one. Yeah, really cool. Then this is the Genesis one that has the that has the removable gun. This came with the Fourth Doctor. I just have these things are just kind of like lying around all over the place. So got the Giga alien. It's slightly transparent. You can see it's transparent plastic, but it's got a lot of really nice detail. Yeah, really are great figures. They can be a nightmare to stand sometimes, though. So, got the City Hunter. Even you can actually put his little stick on his back there. And here's a funny one here. So we've got Usagi Yojimbo. It's a very detailed samurai rabbit figure. And like a lot of this stuff is here just because at the moment I'm sort of rejigging my room, so I don't have a lot of space for it. Got the Titan Alien Queen. This is one that I don't think I'm going to be able to keep in the collection for much longer. But the teeth are actually glow in the dark, which is weird. Yeah, it's got a good smile. But yeah, it's got that kind of silly animated style that they have. So yeah, just thought I'd show off some toys. So I'm going to be doing I'm going to be doing a lot of experimental content for this podcast channel. I might be doing things like maybe talking about some Dalek figures, you know, which ones I think are the best. Might get Problem Being on as well to do that. But yeah, so this was just a general chat, you know, just like something that I had on my mind and I felt like I really needed to get off my mind. I don't think the heat's helping, so I apologize if it's been perhaps a little bit distorted, a little bit all over the place. It's like, honestly, just trying to do anything is just hard work in this. But big thank you for those of you who've turned up. Dr. Mew, Matthew Pounder, and Problem Being, thanks for showing up in the chat there. And of course, Divas, Dinosaurs, and Demons, big thanks for showing up. Yeah, it's been a nice little stream. A bit directionless. Usually I find it's better if I have a guest on, you know, just to kind of even things out. But yeah, just let me know if you enjoyed it. As I say, I just feel very passionate about this because I think I'm, you know, a lot of people like me are very unfairly treated. You know, we're just kind of put in those boxes of the result of all this wokeness, you know, Gen Z, complete failures, emotional wrecks, losers, betas, you know, all these things. And I just think these people are very nasty. And, you know, actually, we might surprise you. You know, we might not have the views or the outlooks that you think we do. So that's just the way it is. You know, I find not a lot of people are speaking about this. You know, so I just feel the need to say it, and I do strongly disagree with the way some of these people present themselves. And you know, they might just say, "Oh, it's just a joke." You know, it's not your fault. It's not our fault if you can't take it. Well, it's like, you know, it doesn't always come across that way, though. You know, but like I say, it's just my opinion, and I do still like a lot of their content, but it's just my view on it. So I'm going to wrap up here, guys, before I just completely pass out from heat stroke. So thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. As I say, stay tuned to the channel because I am going to have some more content up. Me and Problem Being are going to be talking about the classic Doctor Who Blu-ray releases and why we're not very happy. We're also going to be doing just some general action figure merchandise videos as well when it comes to Doctor Who, and I might also start doing some Alien, perhaps some Predator videos. I'm definitely going to be talking about the new design for the new Predator film because it is shocking. And yeah, just other things like that. And if any news comes out about Doctor Who that is worthy of talking about, then I'll be sure to do it because, you know, I'm enjoying this podcast channel. I'm really grateful for all those of you who subscribed and turn out to the videos. It's really cool. It's great to be able to chat with a lot of you and, you know, interact. That's what I love about this community. So stay safe and happy, guys. Have a really good rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye for now, guys.